Okay, good morning, welcome back. We're going to start on page 39 today. While you guys are opening to page 39, we'll make a couple of quick announcements. First of all, we are in the midst of a very big voting thing happening here in Massachusetts, happening nationwide. In honor of this voting thing coming up on November the 6th, we have GCC Rocks the Vote, and this is happening tomorrow in Student Life, which is down in the core on the second floor. So if you are available at any point on campus tomorrow between 10 and 2, that's when this is happening. There's food, there's prizes, it's tomorrow, C216. What's going to happen there is you will learn how to register to vote if you have not registered. They will have all the forms needed. They will have people that can answer all of your questions about voting. And basically, it's just supposed to get people excited, especially younger folks who oftentimes are underrepresented at the polls. So if you're around and able, go stop by for a little bit. If you want this information, you know, how to register, where to register, when to register, but you're not on campus tomorrow, you can still go to C216, go to Student Life at any point in October, and they'll be able to give you that information, okay? So, you know, we've spent a lot of time in this class talking about voting, but this is not just some academic exercise. This is one of your civic rights, and I would say a civic responsibility. So go out, make sure that you're registered to vote, and then take care of that on November the 6th. I have another document here that was sent out. If you just want the cold facts about how to register and where and when, I'm happy to email this document to you, okay? So I have this, it's a PDF. Let me know if you want it and I will send it your way. All right, so here is the calendar. Today's kind of a special day because today is our review day. So we're done with all the new material for the first test. The first test is happening this coming Thursday. Today is our full period review for that test. The test is on everything. We've had 8 classes of material. The test is on those 8 classes. Said another way, the test is on this packet. When you come back next Tuesday, I will give you a new packet, and that will be the test number 2 packet, okay? So what we're going to do today is spend just a few minutes talking very generally about the test. We'll talk a little bit about the projects. Now, I haven't mentioned the projects since the first day when I think we talked about the different ways that you guys will be graded, but we will talk a little bit today about the projects, and I'll say that the plan for project number 1 is due on October the 16th. So what day is that? Let's see, this is Tuesday, and then that's a Thursday. Is it 2 Tuesdays, 2 weeks from today? Okay, so there's a plan due for this project, and you have no idea what the projects are about, so we'll start talking about those today. But the plan for the project is due 2 weeks from today. So the idea is, right now you are focusing on the test. But as soon as you hand that test in to me on Thursday, the only homework that you're going to have for the 5 days, including the weekend, is to start thinking about project number 1. Start trying to come up with some plan for this project. We'll talk about that today. Okay, so we are on page 39, and we're just going to go very, very quickly through this brief synopsis about the test. Oh, there is another packet. Everybody have a handout. It says plagiarism at the top. So you'll see reference to that in your homework. And the reason we talk about it is because some of you guys for your project are going to turn in a paper, a research paper, and we just want to make sure everybody understands what's allowed, what's not allowed, how to cite properly, and all that good stuff. So this is here because the projects are coming up. Okay, number 1, subjects covered on the test. We did order of magnitude estimation and techniques. We figured out how many cobblers there were, or we estimated how many cobblers there were making their living in the US. You guys in your groups estimated how much money is spent in movie theaters, you know, box office receipts each year. You estimated how much carbon dioxide all of the cars in America spew out in a year. Remember all of these estimation things you did? How many dentists are in New York City? So all those kinds of questions are this order of magnitude estimation. It says here we always round those things to the first non-zero digit. So instead of saying the number of pennies was 322,587,601, we would just say it's about 300 million, the first digit, and then all zeros. I will remind you on the test. You know, I'll say, give me like the quote exact answer, and then the next line will say, give me the rounded to 1 digit. But I'm just putting it there. I'll remind you on the test. We talked about percentages. It feels like forever ago, but we did spend a class talking about percentages. So I'm going to be asking you to use percentages and figure out where percentages are misused, and we'll give you a couple of word problems about percentages. We also talked about scientific notation and scaling, and you'll see both of those things on the test. Scaling had to do with, remember that solar system problem where we put the Earth in the corner of this room, and then we figured out how far away the sun was on a scale model, and then we had some star series, I don't remember what the stars were, but we scaled things down, and that's that kind of question. So all of that stuff up there is about half the test. What's the other half the test? Voting, right? Half of the test is going to be on voting. We had 4 different methods. I say let's list them here. We'll just say them. We had plurality, we had the Borda method, we had plurality with elimination, and the last one was the pairwise comparisons. So 4 different methods. And then we had the 4 fairness criteria. We won't list them, we won't write them, but they're all on the first page. I think there's a really, really good reference sheet on the first page of this packet with all these things written out. So the fairness criteria, we had the majority criterion, we had the monotonicity criterion, we had the Condorcet criterion, and then the independence of irrelevant alternatives criterion. That was the dropout one. Okay, so what are you supposed to do with all that? Well, I'd like you to be able to calculate. I'd like you to be able to take a preference schedule. I give you all the numbers with A, B, C's, and D's, and I say find the winner using Borda, find the winner using pairwise comparisons. I want you to be able to find 4 winners. And then I want you to be able to tell me in that specific election, was the majority criterion violated? Was the Condorcet criterion violated? That's the kind of question that I'm going to be asking you about. And then we had approval voting. I put that here. Let's just cross it off. It's not on the test. The 4 voting methods are the ones we talked about in detail. And then tactical voting, that was where you'd maybe not vote sincerely, but try to vote to get yourself a better outcome of the election. And then Arrow's impossibility theorem, which was this rather depressing conclusion to all of our voting stuff. No matter how creative we are in terms of counting the votes and finding a winner, still there's no method that will satisfy all 4 of those fairness criteria in every election. Okay, let's go to number 2 for resources. Can we go to Mariah?
You can use a calculator and 1-page sheet of notes of your own creation. This sheet should be 1 piece of paper no larger than an 8.5 by 11. And you may write on both sides. Take any material written or typed by you. It should not be a photocopy of pages from the textbook or class.
Okay, so just to reiterate, I'm not a huge fan of saying math tests are about who can memorize the most. So whatever stuff you would think you might want to memorize, write it down, put it on a piece of paper. You know, I can oftentimes tell who's going to do well on the test as you guys walk in and I look at the reference sheets. And some people have these really thorough, really detailed, really spent a lot of time reference sheets. And then other people have stuff where the ink is still wet and there's like, you know, like there's this much writing on it. And then they're going to come up and say, you know, I don't remember, how do we do this kind of percentage question? There was a formula and I should have written it down, but I didn't write it down. Be one of the first people. Spend time. Part of your study time is creating that reference sheet. I think it can make a big difference in terms of grades. We'll go to Nicole for 3. Okay, number 4, Grace. Okay, so our class officially meets for 1:15. The test is going to be written to be an hour long. So everybody will have a little extra time with the 1:15. I'd like to give folks even more time if possible. Logistically, this becomes difficult because this class is sandwiched between 2 other classes, right? There are people here when we come in and there are people kicking us out when it's time to go. So I will tell you that if you want a little bit more time, maybe shoot for closer to 9:15. I'm not going to say the test starts at 9:15 because that's when the other folks will be clearing out, but as soon as they are out, I will be outside this door ready to come in and get you guys started at 9:18 or something like that. And our class officially goes until 10:45. I think if we went until like 10:53, We wouldn't have any problems with the 11 o'clock class. So almost an hour and a half inside of there. Come early if you're worried about wanting a little bit more time. If 10:53 comes and you want another 10 minutes, it will be a little disruptive, but we'll find a place for you to go somewhere else and have 10 more minutes on the test, okay? All right, number 5, we'll come here to Chelsea.
Before we review helpful thoughts, there are no learning objectives or next steps. Assignment 2, also find
Specific. Good. Okay, so the plan for the rest of today, first we're going to talk a little bit about the projects, and then you guys are going to spend the bulk of this period just reviewing whatever you'd like to review in terms of our test and help each other, and I will walk around and answer questions. First, are there any general questions on the test? Hattie. The conversion charts, like the kilometers and miles stuff? No, any kind of conversion stuff that I expect I will give you in the problem. So if I want you to go miles to feet, I will tell you there are 5,280 feet in a mile right on the test. Good question. Yeah, Lucas. They're pretty much short answer. A question like, how much money do you think has been spent in movie theater tickets is like a longer, but it's still one question. So there's no multiple choice, there's no matching, there's no true false. It's all short answer, but there are a couple of questions that are maybe a little bit more. Some of the questions will be completely unrelated to each other, but the voting questions are all very much related to each other. So I don't think I'm giving away too much when I say that on the test you will see a question similar to something like this. This is on page 38. And here's a preference schedule, and there are a bunch of parts. Who's the winner if you use plurality? Who's the winner if you use plurality with elimination? So you'll have one big question like this, which is going to be worth almost half of the test because we've done so much stuff with voting. But for the most part, the other questions will be unrelated to each other. Any other general questions on the test? Okay, so before you go back to the sample test problems, just want to show you on page 40. So again, there's nothing due for next class. You are studying for the test, and that is all you are doing for this. But due 1 week from today, I'm going to ask you to read 2 sections in the textbook, and you're going to read this handout that I've just given, so make sure you grab one from the table. And then there are, looks like four different questions for homework. One of the shortest homework assignments we'll have all year. It is due 1 week from today, okay? All right. And then finally, what's going on with these projects? Okay, so there are 2 projects that you guys are going to do for this class. They are each worth 15%. Each project is worth 15%. Each test is worth 13%. The project is worth more than the test. So if you have a bad test day, or if you're just generally bad in terms of taking math tests, I've got you covered. I've got 2 projects for you that are each worth more than any of our tests. But that's only going to help you if you spend the time, put the time into giving a good project. So we are never going to read all of this stuff to each other. It would be completely boring. So at some point over the next couple of weeks, you are going to read this general information about the test. There's lots of good information. I know it's a lot of reading. I have tried to make it as short as possible, but still give you everything you need to know about this project. So it goes on to the next page, and I'd say it ends somewhere around here, where then it goes into this Mla Citation Guidelines. You can skip that for now, but when you're in the midst of the project, if you're doing a paper, know that there's this reference for you in terms of citations. And on the next page, more stuff about citations. And then finally on page 42 is the start of the suggested topics. I will tell you that of the suggested topics, all but 1 are about voting. So for example, number 2 is about sequential voting. We have not discussed sequential voting. It is something completely different from what we've done in class. You are going to do some research if you decide to. You're going to learn what sequential voting is. You're going to tell me how it works. You're going to tell me where people use sequential voting. You're going to tell me some of the weaknesses of sequential voting and some of the strengths of sequential voting. That's a paper. On the next page are a bunch more topics. The Burlington, Vermont, just a few hours north of here, 2006 mayoral election was quite interesting. And if you want to learn more about it, you can read about what happened in that election, what went wrong, and is there any way to kind of fix, looking back, is there something that they could have done differently to prevent whatever happened from happening? In number 4, you could learn about a different voting method, not one that I've listed up above, but for example, the Academy Awards uses a voting method that we haven't talked about, or you could find some other place. There's the Australian Senate elections. There are lots of different ways that people count the vote all over the world. If you're interested in one of these, you can go do a research paper about it. You can write an editorial to your local paper about the virtues of instant runoff voting. And so it's not a research paper per se, but it's really written from the perspective of, I am talking to the people that live in my town and they don't know anything about voting other than just put who you think is the best and that's it. And you can convince them that instant runoff voting maybe should be considered. And it goes on and on. You can write about the UN Security Council, the 2000 presidential election, possibly the low point in the history of US voting. And I'm not talking about thinking that the winner of that election, I'm not judging the winner of that election. I'm not saying anything over Bush or Gore. I'm just saying that the way in which that election was conducted and all the problems that came up, all the lawsuits, all the Supreme Court stuff, in my opinion, this is the low point of voting here in the United States. So you can read about it and find out what went wrong and find out if we have learned from our mistakes. Number 9 is quite popular, conducting your own election. So find some question that you want people to rank 4 choices for, and then go out and find 20 people to vote, and then count the vote according to the Borda and the plurality and all these things, and write up your summary. A lot of people like that one. And then finally, there's something down here about the Electoral College. We will talk about the Electoral College 1 week from today, but certainly that's something that is in the news as we head into this presidential election. Any general questions at this point about the projects? Okay. All right, so here is what I recommend. If you go back to, somebody help me find the, no, their details are written, where are details? Yeah, the details are in that informational sheet, but 2 weeks from today, there's a plan for project number 1 due, which is basically you're just going to say, okay, what I'm going to do is a research paper on sequential voting, and I've done a little bit of work. I found this website, and I think this book might be okay, and that's where I'm headed. And that's all, just a 1 paragraph. Just, it's my way of trying to get you to think about the project before the day before it's due, okay? All right. So can somebody help me find in the packet the sample test, sample test problems, page 37. Okay, so we have 42 minutes for you guys to get as far as you can in these sample test problems. So what you're going to do is work together. If you get bogged down on one question, skip ahead. You don't need to go through them in order. If you just say, all right, I don't remember percentages, I'll look at them later, I want to practice the voting, go find the voting questions, okay? I'll put the flags around, so raise them if you get stuck, and let's see how far we can get.